Star Wars 7x7 episode 2207. So there's a bit of information about Solo, a Star Wars story rumors that I did not share with you in this past week that is worth pointing out, and it actually leads to a conversation about the evolution of Star Wars storytelling post Skywalker saga, and also a question for you too. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy. And thank you so much for joining me for it. So, let's start off by talking about the first bit of material that I missed, which is something that actually dates back to September of 2019. I don't think we talked about it on the show, but it's relevant to our recent discussion about Solo, a Star Wars story, and about Alden Ehrenreich's recent comments in Esquire magazine. Back as far as September of 2019, there was a rumor kicking around about something spinning off from Solo, a Star Wars story that could be coming to Disney+. This was reported by the Star Wars Unity website, and the thing about it that actually had kind of a ring of, this is interesting, is that previously, all the way back into 2018, there had been a report of something codenamed Mos Eisley that was ramping up for production at Pinewood Studios, or the potential for production, and unfortunately it was shut down because the presumption was that things didn't necessarily go as well as hoped with Solo, a Star Wars story, and subsequently conversations about how fast movies were coming out came up, and about, the whatever the situation was, whether they, thought Solo just didn't do well enough to support a sequel, if that was in fact a sequel, and if standalone movies were the right way to go. Who knows what was really going on behind the scenes. Suffice it to say, something was getting prepped, and it was suddenly no longer getting prepped. But here's the thing that Star Wars Unity pointed out, and I think that's a pretty valid point. Disney and Lucasfilm have a habit of not letting material disappear, right? So, for example, the presumption is, and I think I've even heard Ewan McGregor say this in an interview, that the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie that was allegedly in development is the thing that was turned into the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series. And that, of course, goes on to the whole thing about, well, there had been rumors kicking around that a Kenobi movie was in development, and ultimately the final announcement that was made was for a series for Disney+. So, it seems to lend credibility to the idea that things that are in development can continue to live in one form or another, and they may just need to go through, multiple iterations of things before they finally become something that hits production. And the implication in the Star Wars Unity story was that something similar could possibly happen, and might be happening behind the scenes, with if that Mos Eisley project was in fact related to Solo, a Star Wars story, or maybe possibly tied into threads that were opened up as a result of Solo, a Star Wars story, that it could be being repurposed, reworked, and reimagined as something that could move on as a series for Disney+. And I think the thing that we are learning as we watch Lucasfilm pivot in its live-action storytelling from, moving away from the Skywalker saga, is that they are starting to lean a little more heavily on genre. It's been said that Star Wars has succeeded because it wasn't necessarily genre-specific on its own, but instead took influences from all sorts of different storytelling genres. And now it seems like we're kind of turning things inside out a little bit. So we have, the language of Star Wars established and leaning more heavily into the Western concept with The Mandalorian. We have the Cassian Andor series in development, which is a spy thriller. That's how it's been described top line to us. And we don't yet know what the Kenobi series is going to be. That's, very interesting and intriguing, whether it's going to be something like, the Star Wars equivalent of Castaway with Tom Hanks, where he's just abandoned in the middle of nowhere. That seems like, it would be awesome if they could figure out how to do that and make it compelling, but that's probably not what it's going to be. And considering that, there's rumors of Anakin Skywalker, aka Hayden Christensen, being cast in this thing, then obviously there's going to be a little bit more interpersonal drama and action as a result. But I think you get where I'm going with this, the fact that they're looking to tell Star Wars stories in a rather specific kind of way. And so the notion of pursuing anything that ties into Solo, a Star Wars story, or that tied into any of the story threads that it opened up, seems like it would lean into an underworld crime drama sort of genre thing. But that is, in the case of anything related to Solo, an idea that would require a few other dominoes to topple, right? Like, you know, whether the Mos Eisley project, whatever it was, is actually a thing, and whether it had anything to do with anything related to Solo, a Star Wars story, and whether they would in fact repurpose it, and all this other stuff. But that leads me to a question that I want to ask you for your feedback and opinion on as the show continues on its march toward December of 2022, when allegedly we're going to get our next Star Wars movie. And that is, how do you feel about hearing about rumors and leaks? Spoilers, I'm pretty much like, no, I don't even want to do spoilers on the show, and I haven't done, I think, for a while. Like, there was a time when I was doing Force Awakens updates, and I had a non-spoiler section and a spoiler section of the show, and ultimately I stopped doing the spoiler section because, yeah, even though I was seeing spoilers, I was like, I don't think I want to talk about that on the show. And I, you know, over the course of years doing the podcast, even started shying away from seeing spoilers myself. So, you know, it's one thing to look at a trailer and go, oh, well, there's this, and here's what we've heard, and only informed from non-spoiler sources. But it's another thing to hear spoiler stuff and go, oh, okay, I know what this is, right? So that's not where we're going to go here on the show. And so I guess what I'm wondering is things like, for example, when the rumor came out that Rosario Dawson was going to be in season 2 of The Mandalorian as Ahsoka Tano, or the casting of Tamura Morrison or Timothy Olyphant, you know, those were reported but not officially by any sources, but, you know, rumor mill stuff with some, you know, veracity of reporting. And that's the sort of thing that I do plan on sharing with you, unless you as a listener tell me that you don't want to hear that sort of thing, that you want to go in as blind as you possibly can to whatever storytelling thing that is coming. So let me know what you think. Drop me a comment wherever you catch the episode that has a comment section, and sw7x7.com as home base for the show if you want to drop it there. I would love to hear what you think. So that's where we're going to leave things for today. Thank you so much for joining me for the show, as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2020 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.